I'm here with Paul Brandt, who is in the Canadian Country Music Hall of Fame. He's live on our show to talk and perform some music. What's that last line? Once you take that trip, you're not coming back the same?
Once you take that trip, yeah, you ain't coming back the same.
I was over the weekend. It's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine who was just down in Nashville producing a record, and he's from Canada. And he said he was able to have an entire Canadian band play on his record because there's so many Canadians in Nashville. How does it change you?
Well, yeah, that's happened now. I remember when I went down in 1996. 97 was when the Nashville Predators came to town, and I think back then I may have been the only Canadian in town, or at least at that moment. And so I was a hot commodity at that moment because I could sing both national anthems, you know, and so I'll never forget, you know, being there, and you know, you get a couple tickets to get to go and watch the game, and the two drunk guys at the hockey game were behind me spilling beer the whole time, and it was funny because they were wearing headphones. There was a person explaining the game while they were watching it. It was a new, you know, totally new sport for them back then. And I remember hearing one of them yell out. The Vancouver player ended up with a penalty, and the guy yells out, "That's right, boy, you go sit in a truck," he says, you know. I'd never heard that at a hockey game before. And the third period buzzer rings, and he turns to his buddy, he goes, "You want to get a couple more beers and come back for the fourth?" And he was dead serious. They're coming back for the fourth, you know. But, you know, I think that town, I think in a lot of ways changed me. You know, I think that learning a little bit more about a completely different culture. It really is a very different culture, the Southern culture. A very lyrical way of speaking. Just how sacred the music is to songwriters in Nashville, and the way that they approach it. All of those things really have an impact. And I think you know, a prairie boy heading down there and being surrounded by those, you know, tall oak trees and just the difference in weather and all that stuff, it all becomes new colors on the palette for writing as well. I love that part of it.
When did you know it was time to come home and stay home?
You know, for us, I mean, it was always kind of on our radar. You know, wanting to head back to Alberta because our families are based there, and I think that there's something about those Rocky Mountains. I've heard people say, you know, I mean, I know you from the East Coast. I mean, you're either an ocean person or a mountain person. If you're from BC, maybe you're a bit of both. But we had always felt that draw. But Liz's father had Parkinson's disease, and he was really struggling through the end stages of that, and we felt like it was time for us to get home. So that was a big impetus for us to come back, and we've been back for about 12 years now, but still make a lot of trips back and forth. It's great to be home. I love being based in Alberta.
What was it like to come home? Because I find this is maybe the most egotistical thing about me, which is saying something. But when I go home to Newfoundland now, I often expect it to be the same as when I left, and I have a hard time with the fact that, oh yeah, it's changed in the 6-7 years since I've been gone,
you know, Calgary had gone through an explosive growth right around the time that we came back, and so there were some changes there. You know, and at the same time, you know, our lives had changed, and we had changed because of what had happened with music. I mean, I remember, you know, Liz and I were married. She came down to Nashville. We got our place set up, had a honeymoon, got on a bus with 11 smelly musicians, and then did 180 shows a year, and we were gone.
How romantic?
Oh, very romantic. I figured she can put up with that. She can put up with anything, you know. And coming back, we had been through all of that. And in Nashville, it's weird. I mean, you know, there's so many people in the music business. You get kind of used to seeing celebrities, and people don't make a big deal out of it. And Canadians are very polite, but it was different for us when we moved back and we moved right into the city. You know, people are following us around the grocery store to see what kind of cheese we're buying, and it was a weird, that celebrity thing. We had never really dealt with it in that way when we moved back, and that took a little bit of getting used to and figuring out, you know, how to manage all of that kind of stuff. And people have been amazing. They've been incredibly gracious, and we feel like we're a part of the community. But it was a bit of an adjustment for us.
I mean, you are part of the community. From when I was reading about you, you got your start playing, was like a new talent competition at the Calgary Stampede?
Yeah, the Youth Talent Showdown at the Calgary Stampede.
What did you play?
I played Friends in Low Places. I played The Dance, and Garth Brooks tunes. Actually, initially, I played a song. It was one of the first songs that I wrote, and it was a song called Objects in the Mirror Are Closer Than They Appear.
Did you write that? Or?
I did. I wrote it, and I started doing my own stuff. And then eventually I realized that at this contest, people who were having the most success were kind of doing their best interpretations of other artists.
Right.
And so, you know, doing, you know, looking back on the memory of the dance we shared beneath the stars above. You know, and playing that. And wearing the black and white Garth Brooks shirt that my mom had made for me was the ticket. And eventually ended up winning that, getting to do a bunch of other international talent competitions, and getting recognized by record companies is kind of what happened after that.
Did you ever get to meet Garth?
You know, I recently did, and it was a great experience for me. You know, we share the same business management company, and I think it's funny. I was kind of the worst Garth Brooks stalker kind of mindset when I was.
So the way people were with you with the cheese at the grocery store.
Exactly right.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, this would be so cool. And so they set it up, and I got a chance to meet Garth and Trisha, and he's just super gracious. When I mentioned that my mom had made these shirts for me to, you know, first get into the music business and do all this stuff, he was pretty moved by that. And so he said, well, are your parents still with you? And I said, yeah. He said, well, bring them to the show tomorrow night. I'd love to meet them too. So he was very gracious, and my mom was like beside herself. She like, it was one of those mom moments, just like, oh, don't do that. And at the same time, she's like, this is the coolest thing ever. So pretty cool.
Have you come to terms with the fact that people in Canadian country music see you that way? Like, I know a lot of young Canadian country singers come in here and they talk about you in that same way.
You know, it's really weird. Like it changes the way that the dynamic is when you first meet people, and I you know, you never really know how they're going to respond. A lot of times, I feel like maybe people are being withdrawn, or they're not really, you know, they don't really want to talk. What I realize is that sometimes people get a little bit nervous, and once you break through that first thing, and just, you know, I guess kind of put people at ease, it ends up, it's a wonderful position to be in, because it breaks down this barrier, and immediately you have a connection with people. And I love that part of what I get to do. It's all about the connection. We have people come into shows all the time that say, I don't even really like country music, but I like what you do.
Yeah.
And so for me, that means that it's gone a little bit beyond the music, and that's wonderful.
I tell you what I love about you, and I love about a lot of the country performers who come on the show, is that you're not afraid to do your hits. You know, we have a lot of performers who come on and we think like, are they gonna do the song they're best known for? And they'll go, no, don't even mention it too.
Well, I remember, you know, early on, there were a couple things that I remember hearing from the record label that we were working with at the time, Warner Reprise in Nashville. The first photo shoot, I put the cowboy hat on, and I remember the A&R person saying, "Are you sure you want to wear that hat?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" She says, "Because once we take this picture, you can never take it off. Wow. Like you will be branded that way, and people will know you." And I remember doing a show without the cowboy hat on at one point, and I actually got hate mail. Like, people were like, I paid $25 to come see you play, and you're not even wearing your hat, you know. And it became a part of the persona. But the other thing that she said is, don't ever cut a song that you don't want to sing for the rest of your life.
Right.
And I think it's an important, you know, thing to think about as an artist. You know, if it becomes a hit, it's your life, and you're singing it forever. So I try and do that.
So you're gonna do it now. Do you still love singing it?
Love this song. You know, this was. I was on a quick trip home. I was still living in Nashville, but dreaming about moving back. And it was one of those spring days like we're having right now in Calgary, where the snow is falling, really big clumps of snow, and it feels like you're in a snow globe. And thinking about all the things I love about Alberta. And this one kind of popped into my head. And First time I played it, maybe a poor choice of venue. I played it in British Columbia.
Oh, yeah. Over a glass of wine.
Yeah,
it didn't go so well.
They seemed to like it. There was one cowboy out there who got pretty excited about the whole thing. I thought, you know, either this is going to be a bigger hit than I thought, or, you know, that guy's from Alberta, one of the two. But yeah, I love playing it. Yeah, it goes like this.